Alright, so this is like my 50th time trying to record this intro and video as a whole, because my brain's all over the place, there's a lot I want to say, so we're not going to get into spoilers right off the rip. We're going to keep it spoiler free, I'll warn you before we get to the spoilers. So, just to kind of give a brief recap, the reason I haven't made any videos on The Last of Us show yet is because I didn't really feel the need to, right? Like, the show, it's very faithful to the game, it iterated in some places, like for example, episode 3 of season 1, they did branch off, they changed Bill's character a little, or well actually no, they changed Bill's quick character quite a lot, but I feel like it works in the context of the show, and yeah, you know, I didn't make any videos because it's not like I had any controversial hot takes, there's not anything I really needed to say, it was just, this is a great show, I love what they're doing with it, so I haven't really mentioned it too much. And the same still rings true for season 2 so far, however, if you know what happened in The Last of Us Part 2, and if you know what happened in Episode 2 specifically of Season 2, then you would know why I'm making this video, and it's not because I have any controversial hot takes, and it's not, you know, for one reason or another. I still love the show just as much as I did before Episode 2. In fact, I love it even more for doing what they did so brutally, just getting it done, you know what I mean? Again, still trying to skirt around spoilers, we'll get to it in a minute. But I just had to make the video because I have a lot of emotions swirling in my head, and I am genuinely depressed right now, okay? So we're just gonna get into spoilers. Like, I can't hold it off for any longer. If you haven't played Last of Us Part 2, if you haven't seen Season 2, Episode 2 yet, please go watch it, or please go play the game before you watch anymore, okay? 3, 2, 1, you've had more than enough time to click off. Everybody should be gone? Okay. The way they killed Joel, holy crap. They definitely stayed faithful to the game in that regard, and I would say, in some ways, it's not that one was more brutal than the other, because like, there's different aspects to it, right? You have the meeting and the coming to, like, the building of the tension, right? When Abby is under that fence getting chased by all the clickers, she barely makes it out, but then a clicker gets on top of her, and then Joel comes up and saves her. That basically plays out the same way in the show that it did in the game. However, it's just again, that's just when the tension hits, because there's already so many other things going on at that point, right? Jackson's getting overrun by all the clickers. There's like a massive snowstorm coming through. You stay outside for more than 15 minutes, you're gonna get hypothermia, which almost happens to Dina. Well, no, it basically does happen to Dina. Joel, Dina, and Abby end up getting holed up in like a warehouse for a minute. They're like, okay, where do we go? And then Abby's like, oh, wait, you know, me and my friends were in this lodge on top of the mountain, you know, we can get there by horse or whatever. So then they set off for that, and from there it sort of starts to cut back between Joel, Abby, and Dina trying to make it to this lodge with Abby's friends, which is obviously, you know, Abby's trying to ambush Joel right now. Then it also cuts back to Jackson, where clickers are absolutely overrunning the place, which is something that we actually didn't see in the game. We heard a lot about stuff like that, but, you know, about like outbreaks that had happened there and such, but we never heard about, or we never got to actually see that unfold. And then it also cuts to Ellie and Jesse, which were also off on a patrol, because Joel and Dina were out on patrol, as well as Ellie and Jesse. So then all of this is unfolding. Joel and Dina finally arrive to the lodge, and once they get there, there's also another cut back to Ellie and Jesse, where Jackson is trying to reach out to everybody on patrol and, you know, tell them to come back because the storm's getting worse. Ellie and Jesse are able to hear it on their radios, but Joel and Dina weren't able to, and they're already up at the lodge, and that's when Ellie and Jesse find out that, you know, Joel never checked back in, so that's when Ellie and Jesse go out to try to find them. And that's about the point when it cuts back to Joel, Dina, Abby, and her crew, and they start doing some introductions. You know, they find out who Dina's name is, and then when it comes time for Joel, Abby says his name just straight out, like, that's Joel, and everybody in the room is just like you can just feel the tension just go to like 1,000,000,000 in that moment. From there, the one chick in Abby's crew ends up like tranquilizing Dina, so then she gets knocked out for like an hour, and then Joel and Abby have their whole conversation, and it doesn't take long for things to get started, right? Like, they go back and forth and banter a little bit, but then out of nowhere, Abby just pulls the shotgun, and dude, it was such a brutal shot, and it was so quick the way that they did it. Like, they didn't focus on it, they didn't give you time to breathe, and that's one of the things that I've loved about The Last of Us show, is just how realistic it is, right? Just how gritty it is. Like, they don't hold on something for emotional tension just for the sake of emotional tension. Like, if there's a moment for them to do that, they will do it, but if they have to keep things moving in order to keep it realistic and just sort of keep you in the action, they do that, because literally, there's a cut where it shows Abby pulling up the shotgun, there's a wider shot where she shoots, and then Joel gets hit in the knees, and he, like, falls down, and it is so fast and so brutal the way it happens. Like, his feet literally just get swept out from under him, as you would expect if he got blasted in the knees by a shotgun, and as soon as that happens, and before he hits the floor, it does, like, another cut, and it all happens so fast. But that's just the beginning of it, because then after that, there's a bit of a monologue, which honestly, I'm gonna say it right now, the way that it was handled in the show, I don't know what it is. It was a little bit different, right? I almost felt I don't want to say more intimidated by Abby, but you almost felt more of a sense like she's kind of insane, but she's also just been through a lot, so she's not exactly insane, she's just traumatized, because she gets down on one knee and she starts explaining everything that happened and the fact that Joel killed her father, and you can kind of start to see the tears well up and like run down her face as she's talking about it, and you can like visibly see the mix of frustration, anger, and just like, just pure trauma on her face. But then at that point, after a little bit of banter, she goes up and she goes to grab the golf club, which, if you play the game, you know what's coming next. And then she keeps talking, and then Joel kind of gets fed up with it, and he's like, just, shut the fuck up and get it over with. So then, she grabs the golf club, turns around, says, you don't get to rush this or whatever, and just like she did in the game, and then that's when it starts. She starts beating the shit out of his knee that just got blasted by a shotgun with the golf club. And dude, Pedro Pascal's performance during obviously up to this point, his performance has been absolutely fantastic, but this moment, dude, he nailed every aspect of it, right? Like, it may sound easy on the surface. Oh, just scream like you're in pain, and then when you're dying, just flinch a bit anytime you get hit, and then just kind of sell the fact that you're taking your last breaths. But no, dude, when you're watching that, oh my gosh, I can feel the tears welling up again, dude. You can just hear him screaming in agony, and it just echoing throughout the entire building, and it is just so visceral, and like, you can almost feel it, because you can just feel the crunch and hear the smack of the golf club against his, his blasted open kneecap, and the way that he's screaming. And I guess there's only so much they can show on TV or like HBO even, or maybe they just wanted to cut it for the sake of not being too gory for the sake of it, because they still showed a lot. Like, they showed honestly a bit more than I was expecting that they would, but they show the hits, they show the blood splattering, and then they do a few cuts in between, and then before you know it, you see Abby just down, because in the game, right, she just bashes his fucking head in with like a golf club, but no, dude, in the show, she's just like straight fist to face actually beating him to death. You see her fucking fist getting all bloodied up, her face getting all bloodied up, his face is completely covered in blood to a point where his eyeball is like kind of like sunken in and closed, and he can like barely open his other one, and it's like getting blacked out, and he's just covered in blood and just dark gore. And that's the point where Ellie finds where they're at. She starts to investigate the building, and then she walks in just like she did in the game and finds Joel getting his face still beaten in. And at this point, he's honestly more dead at this point in the show than he was in the game, because he's still technically alive when Ellie gets there in the show here. But, I feel like in the game, right, he was still like at least still kind of there, could still maybe move if, if he wanted to. But in the show at this point, he's literally just like basically gone. Like, he's holding on by a thread at this point. So Ellie gets in there. She obviously starts freaking out, attacks the one dude. The dude that she attacks goes to kill her, but another person in Abby's crew tells him not to, because everybody in Abby's crew is basically against the idea of just like killing people for the sake of it, whereas Abby was just kind of, it was very clear from the beginning she was willing to do whatever she needed to do in order to get her revenge, didn't care who got in her way, whereas her crew wasn't of that same mindset. But then from there, she gets knocked down to the floor, and then there's this one moment that sent me like, oh my gosh, dude, I was absolutely bawling at this point, right? Because she's screaming at him like she does in the game. She's like, Joel, get up, get the fuck up. And there's a moment where Joel, and oh my gosh, it's so sad the way that they did it. Like, you can see him literally, because again, at this point, he's basically like all but dead. He just barely lifts his head up, just barely takes another breath, just barely try, just trying as much as he can at this moment. And you can see Ellie's reaction, right? Like, she gets excited for a moment, understandably so, but then then the one dude in Abby's crew tells her like, okay, just finish this. And then she takes I guess like the one end of the golf club or whatever it was, and just sticks it through his neck. And at that moment, they also stayed faithful to the game at that point, because as soon as it goes through his neck, like, you hear the shing of it stabbing him in the neck, but then you also hear like right there, it cuts to like a tinnitus type of thing where there's like that ringing, and it cuts to like Ellie's point of view, or like her reaction to everything. And at that point, Abby's crew leaves, not before kicking Ellie in the stomach though, like really hard, enough to like literally take the wind out of her, so she can't even get up after everything. She just crawls over to Joel's body, and then it does this really sad and lonely feeling, I don't even know what you would call it necessarily. It's not necessarily just like a wide shot, but like a pull away shot from above, like a bird's eye view pull away. I don't know the exact technical terms for these things. I never really studied film that much. It just shows Ellie laying there with Joel, and then like half of Dina's body is still off screen because she's still knocked out from the tranquilizer, and it just kind of like slowly pulls up. And then from there, that's basically the end of the episode, and it's just like, it's very, very quiet after that. It cuts back to Jackson, and it shows you know, the remaining people that are alive after that, because a lot of people got killed during the attack. And then it also shows you know, Jesse and Ellie on the one horse with Joel in a body bag being drawn behind them and Dino on the other horse. And at that point, it plays the song through the... I don't know. Well, what's the exact name of the song? Is it just Through the Valley of Death? Whatever that song's name is, it ends up playing that. And then it also cuts to Abby's crew and them walking away. And then after that, the silencer... Or the credits are just silent, right? Like, there's no music playing at that point. And yeah, man, from the point that Joel met Abby, I just had this feeling, like you know, that deep feeling where you're just like... You just feel bad, right? Because obviously I played the game, I already knew what was going to happen, but it's just, you know, you still feel bad because you know what's about to happen. And obviously even in the show, they already laid out what's about to happen, right? Like who Abby is, what her intentions are, this, that, and the other. So, you know, anybody just watching the show also knows that something bad's about to happen, or can at least assume that. And yeah, leading all the way up to the point that it happened, again, I cried like a literal baby, just like I did when I played the game for the first time. And I just feel really conflicted, not because of anything that the show did or anything that the game did or anything about the story. It's just sadness. I guess it's less confliction and more sadness, and it's one of those things where I feel like a lot of other fans of the game, a lot of other fans of the show are definitely going through the same thing right now, and I'm not alone. And I kind of had to talk about my thoughts, because I'm one of those guys where I will normally just internalize my feelings and not talk about them, but this is a TV show and we're all in it together, so, and I already know that it's one of those things where, since it's a TV show, millions of other people are also dwelling in their own sadness for the exact same reason right now. So if anything, maybe me talking about my feelings can help somebody else kind of vent their feelings in a parasocial way, or this can also just be a moment where we all kind of are in this together to get through this. Because, man, I don't care if I knew that it was coming or if I knew that it was going to happen. It was just still really, really sad. But now this leads us to the future of the show. And from what they showed from the little teaser at the end, because they had a pretty short teaser this week. I remember last week's was pretty long. They showed a good bit of what was coming up, but no, yeah, this week's was a bit shorter. It was just pretty brief. Dina was saying, like, okay, I know the name of the person that killed Joel, and then it showed like Ellie training and all that, and that was basically it. But it was just enough to set up the fact that, yeah, Ellie is going after them, as you would expect. And now I'm very curious to see what direction they take the show, because obviously if you played the game before, you know that you play the first half of the game as Ellie, you play the second half of the game as Abby, but then well, it's not necessarily half, right? Like, the first kind of half-ish is Ellie, second half-ish is Abby, but then you do, like, the third act as Ellie. So, how are they going to do that? There's going to be 2 seasons of part 2, right? Because season 2 is going to be the first half, season 3 is going to be the second half. Are they going to go back and forth each episode? Like, okay, one episode's dedicated to Abby, one's dedicated to Ellie. Are they going to cut back and forth in between episodes? Like, okay, here's what Ellie's up to, here's what Abby's up to. We'll kind of see both perspectives in an episode. Or are they going to do all of season 2 with Ellie and then go back? Like, okay, here's what I'm assuming right now, right? At the end of season 2, they cut it off midway through the game at the theater. If you play the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm assuming right now that that's where season 2 is going to end, and season 3 would pick up with the time skip back, maybe? But would they really do that? A whole season with Ellie, and then a whole season with Abby, and not much of anything else? That's why I'm confused, which leaves me wondering even more. Where are they actually going to cut season 2 off at? Are they actually going to cut it off at the theater? Are they going to cut it off somewhere else? And how are they going to handle that? Because there's a lot to juggle, and they can't just leave it out, because all of that is so integral to the story of the game. And while, yes, they can obviously take liberties and change the stories they see fit, I don't know. I'm just really curious to see where the show goes next. I'm still as intrigued as ever. Just because I'm really sad and depressed and heartbroken doesn't mean I'm not excited, right? Like, I'm still just as excited as ever for next Sunday, so I can see what happens next. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm still just kind of trying to process my thoughts, trying to process my emotions, and I felt like talking about them on camera would be the best way to do it, because I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I'm actually kind of devastated right now. I'm pretty depressed. After recording this video, I'm probably gonna go hop in the shower and just kind of have a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man moment where I just kind of sit there and let the water run over my face and just contemplate life for a bit. But anyways, yeah, like I said, I know I haven't made any videos on the show yet, and I probably won't make any more videos on the show unless something else crazy ends up happening. Again, just because I don't have that much interesting to say in terms of anything, right? Like, I love the show. I think it's great. I just so happen to be heartbroken enough to make a video on this occasion. But hey, maybe we can recap things once season 2 ends or once season 3 ends, yeah? But anyways, always massive shout out, thank you to all the Patreons and channel members. Thank you to only the low ball tier, and big shout out to my ball team, asking, and be dad Manny, the big shout out to the D tier, run eventual cheese girl. Thank you guys so much. You guys are literal legends. I love you. Have an amazing day. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.